All right. So we are here with Brazil Crypto Report for our weekly recap on August 25th. And I'm here with Antonio Neto. Great to have you back on the show, Antonio.
Hey Aaron, thank you for the invitation. Glad to do this week roundup in Brazil.
Amazing, amazing. Yeah, so let's just dive in right here. We've got a lot of big news this week in crypto land. Especially in Brazil crypto land in particular. Some of it's not really been like the most flattering news, I guess, for the industry, but wanted to kind of start off with this BRICS summit that's been going on in South Africa, and there was a lot of news around this. Yeah, a lot of like really kind of spicy rhetoric that came out of this, especially from Lula, Brazil's president, who has kind of doubled down on his push, basically his insistence that these BRICS countries need to develop their own currency for trade purposes to reduce reliance on the dollar. Gave a few comments on that. So there was, you know, and I mean, I don't know if this is anything that's really new. They've been kind of beating this drum for a while. Lula, obviously, back in January, one of the first things he did when he got elected was that he proposed this, joint currency between Argentina and Brazil to basically not have to use the dollar in trade. And anyway, but what do you think about what's your take on this, Antonio? Is this anything that like is there anything new here that we should be like really paying attention to, or is this just kind of more hot air coming from some world leaders?
Yeah, this is an idea that a lot of these big powers have been trying to push for a while, but it's hard to de-dollarize, right? We are seeing a movement in Argentina that they want to dollarize the economy with the Milei candidate. Um, so I think what is new here is that they are aggregating a lot of more, let's say, GDP to the BRICS group. Basically, when we talk about Iran and Saudi Arabia, we're talking about two of the biggest energy producers in the world, even though fossil, but still energy. So oil and gas. And so what changes right now is this, well, the dollar has always been the currency to pay for this type of services or commodities. And now if they come up with a solution that works between this group, some of this volume might be settled in other currencies. So I think the risks reside more on who is joining it and what type of commodities will be accessed through this economic group.
Yeah, and obviously the reason we're including this here in this discussion is the de-dollarization theme has been something that's been floating around crypto circles for a long time. Like what happens when the U.S. dollar loses its hegemony, and there's some people actively cheering for that. And Bitcoin can step in as this world currency or whatever. It doesn't seem like that narrative has really been playing out. I think even after these comments were made earlier this week, I think that the dollar index actually went up. So it doesn't really seem to be having any immediate impact on the markets or on the value of the dollar. But it obviously the long run trend here does seem to be toward de-dollarization, and there are these folks that are actively pushing for it. But I guess it's just a question of how serious of a entity do we. I mean, the funny thing about BRICS is it's not even like a real. It's like the BRICS is just a term that this Goldman Sachs guy just sort of made up back in like 2003, right? Because he was trying to sell like bonds to to like wealthy people, like sell Brazil bonds or China bonds. We just made up this term, and now it's become
Yeah,
this like geopolitical block, which I find kind of funny. But uh,
yeah, exactly.
anyway, anyway, so moving on to the next story here. So we have some pretty big
Uh,
news on the central bank front. Oh, sorry. Do you have anything you wanted to add on that?
Yeah, I was gonna make a quick bridge here, because one of the things that when we get to analyze Brazil a bit, we see the central bank pushing the Drex, the pigs. The pigs is rolling out the international pigs as well. So at the same time that there is this movement of consolidating, let's say, settlement currencies, Brazil also wants to become, or sorry, to allow to break this barrier and allow the BRL to be traded more freely in the world, which currently is not so easy to trade.
Right. Yeah. So that plays into the ambitions here of trying to um, basically reduce, in order for that to happen, you have to reduce reliance on the dollar in some capacity so that the BRL can in some, at least fill some of that void essentially, right?
Yeah.
And then, so for the next story here, and these are all in Portuguese, so apologies for English speakers here, but so we had some pretty big news out of the central bank this week. So the central bank chose 9 finalists for its Lift Lab, which is its financial innovation laboratory that's been running since 2018, I believe. And they actually had like 95 participants, I think, or entrants or applicants, and they chose 9. Unfortunately, they've had to suspend the program indefinitely due to a lack of resources, which is quite problematic, I guess, because this was kind of like the flagship financial innovation program at the bank. And a lot of these projects, we can scroll down here and see what some of these projects were. So like a Pix wallet, some compliance software, different types of interoperability software, some sustainability things, some KYC things, et cetera, et cetera. So there's a lot of projects here that were really. This is kind of the essentially like the funnel for getting new innovation into the digital real ecosystem, the Drex ecosystem now. Antonio, any thoughts on this? It seems like there might be some issues on the staffing human resources front at the bank right now that could be kind of throwing some sand in the gears.
Yeah, they've been on intermittent strikes in the last few months, trying to get better salaries. But apparently, the central bank were able to approve a concurso, which is a public test exam to select people for public service jobs. Um, so I think that is something that's gonna, well, they will try to solve this because it is um, in the top of their agenda to implement the pilot, to get the Real Digital going, or the Drex as it is called now. Um, but I think that the the main risks are well, around the whole structure, right? Brazil is under discussions on budget, things like that. Hopefully, they can get they can get this concurso going, so they can bring in more people and continue to push innovation into this, because, well, it's a long time coming thing. Brazil has the Lift Lab since 2018, and right now it's kind of crucial because as they want to roll out the Drex next year, um, well, they can't miss that timeline basically.
Right. And this coincides with another pretty big announcement out of the bank, which is that they're going to be extending the first phase of the Drex pilot by delaying it essentially by 3 months. Right. So originally this was scheduled to end in about February or March of 2024 for the initial round of the Drex Digital Real, and they've said that it's going to be delayed by at least 3 months until May. And I think the reason for that was, I mean, they didn't allude to any of the staffing problems, though that might be a part of it. But they mentioned that there's some concerns around privacy and finding adequate privacy solutions for the technology that they're building, and then also just getting all of these different consortiums onto the platform. There's 16 of these consortiums that they've approved, and I think only maybe less than half of them are actually currently running nodes on the pilot network right now. So it seems to be some issues with actually getting people onboarded. Anyway, any initial just quick thoughts on this one?
Nothing to add on this.
Yeah, but
Just
definitely an important one to watch, and perhaps not surprising. I mean, these things, this is sort of the nature of software development, right? Stuff gets delayed, you run into things that you didn't realize, etc. It's not super, nothing like revolutionary here, but definitely of interest.
I don't think that's going to stop the private companies to continue pushing forward this, as a lot of them have been looking to invest more into this. As you reported last week, Mercado Bitcoin is moving towards B2B services, as they see the tokenization of the economy coming with the whole Drex platform.
Yeah. I think the Drex platform is going to continue to be the kind of the catalyst behind the crypto market, digital asset market in Brazil. I think that's irrespective of a 3-month delay. I think that's inevitable. So we had some other news here around Binance. So Binance basically on one day they announced their a new Binance Pay feature that they're rolling out in Brazil. And then I believe it was even the next day they announced that they were canceling or sunsetting their Mastercard. They have a debit card that they had issued in Argentina and Brazil and some other places in the world with Mastercard. That's going to be sunsetted. It appears, based on this Bloomberg article, it looks like there was some pretty heavy pressure on Mastercard and Visa to kind of end their partnership with Binance. Obviously Binance is under a lot of fire right now, but I mean, what's your sense here reading the tea leaves into Binance at the moment?
Well, I think they're basically trying to minimize risk. As a payment institution, they are under other structures to transfer money to allow people to pay, which is different from using a card, right? So I think they're just trying to minimize risk, and well, they've launched the other solution to try and keep the service going. But I think they're globally under fire, as the bear market progresses. Like, volumes are not picking up yet. A lot of regulatory uncertainty. It's known that the Binance is being investigated by the U.S., so it's a hard time for them right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And then moving on to the next story here, looking at the CPI, so this congressional committee in Brazil, that the special congressional investigatory committee that's focusing on just financial pyramids, primarily cryptocurrency pyramids, but other types of pyramids as well. And they've just begun, but a couple weeks ago, bringing in witnesses to testify. They've summoned like hundreds of people to testify in this, but the people that have been called to date are mainly celebrities and kind of high profile people. Some of these, like Ronaldinho, who is a sort of a former star on the Brazilian national team, footballer. Have some other celebrities and TV personalities who were promoting Atlas Quantum and some other pyramid schemes. And the committee really seems to have really trying to sort of make these people, put these people on a pillory and really like they're really going after them pretty hard. But these individuals have managed to escape testifying because of they were granted habeas corpus by a court, so they didn't need to come and testify, and then that left the folks in the committee pretty upset. I mean, if I understand like why the committee might be wanting to look into these things. I feel like a lot of this is just headline chasing and trying to go and bash celebrities over the head for, like, celebrities promote stuff all the time that they don't really understand what it even is. I mean, we even saw that with, like, obviously with FTX, like all these people that were signed on that had no idea what they were getting themselves into. And how much responsibility should these public figures bear for a cryptocurrency project that sort of crashes? It's a pretty sensitive question, I guess. I'm not sure if there's a real easy answer to it, but it does kind of feel like the committee's trying to make an example out of these people. not to say that they're not culpable in any way, but or that they're innocent or whatever, but this feels a little bit like over the top that they're just trying to summon all of these kind of random celebrities. I don't know. What do you think on this?
Yeah, I think it's a thin line right now because there is the CVM also issued guidelines for influencers on investments. So I think it boils down to what was the ads, what was their role on that. So given that perspective, and I believe that what the CPI is trying to do is to understand more about this relation, see what goes on. Um, but I think I think they're definitely trying to um, make some progress, let's say, on these pyramid schemes, because they're even discussing to put together, or sorry, to add to this a new company that's having financial problems right now in Brazil called 123 Miles. Basically, they or allegedly they spread miles, um, and in the selling process of them. Basically, they're a marketplace for ticket airlines, and people can use these mileage points that are issued by their airline companies to sell their miles to issue tickets for someone else. So in
Hmm.
this, they would be in this middle as a middleman to allow this selling. But some secretaries, some people from the government have said that that looks like a pyramid scheme and will be investigated by the CPI.
Interesting. So, and 123 milhas or 123 miles it's a pretty popular service here. If you go to any airport in Brazil, you'll see their ads everywhere. It's pretty popular. I've never used them personally, but yeah, but this whole question of airline miles as being kind of, I mean, they're basically tokens, right? They're just not on a
Yeah.
blockchain, but they kind of function as a virtual currency. Um, so anyway, so it'll be interesting to see what comes out of that. It looks like the executives of 123 Milius are going to have to come and talk to this committee also. Um,
Yeah.
and anyway, so moving on here, we've got BTG Pactual, which is one of the largest banks in Brazil, that is rolling out a new institutional custody solution. So they about a year ago they rolled out this platform Mint, which was a brokerage for mainly aimed at retail, but now they're rolling out kind of more of like a prime custody solution for larger institutions, funds, family offices, all that kind of stuff. Um, I mean, you know, I think this isn't like surprising. I guess BTG Pactual has been pretty forward thinking on digital assets. You know, I've had Andre Porcilio on the show before. They've been kind of pushing the needle on a few things here over the years. But what are your thoughts on this? Why is this significant?
I think this shows the engagement that these private banks are having with the technology and looking for ways to provide new products in the space. I think this also shows that they're trying to integrate as easily as possible with their current offerings and so on. As in, Itaú is also offering custody services for their clients. So it looks like something they're used to do on the traditional finance markets, and so they're basically replicating that. We also see that on the BTG doll that BTG issues, which basically allows them to replicate a replicate a product that they currently have on top of the blockchain.
Yeah, so definitely part of a broader trend here of banks in Brazil that are basically they have to start using this technology more and more. And I think rolling out the institutional side of things here is a kind of a natural progression. So exciting to see that. Switching over to a couple non-Brazil specific stories here about just a couple things that made the headlines this morning. I mean, I woke up this morning to get a bunch of emails from FTX and BlockFi saying my customer data had been compromised, which is obviously not great. Another kind of black eye in this whole FTX saga. Anyway, I'm not still trying to figure out exactly what happened here and if this is any more nefarious than any other data breach that like my data has been involved in, I suppose, in the past. But I don't know. What are your thoughts here?
Well, I didn't went too deep on this subject, but from what we could see, there was well, there are non-sensitive data, and there was a breach on basically a failure of operational security. An employee had their SIM swapped, their SIM card, it was swapped, and so the person could access their email and so on through. Well, through phishing, sorry, social engineering tactics. Um, well, the I think it continues to be bad for all FTX creditors. It has not been an easy time, but hopefully this was just basic data that exposed some of the people that had already claimed their their funds that they had at FTX.
So it says that crypto account passwords and other sensitive data were ineffective, but customers were warned to be on lookout for scammers impersonating parties in the bankruptcy. For me, that seems like that's almost like the most worrying part, is that there's probably going to be some more clever social engineering attacks that come out of this.
Yeah.
I mean, as somebody, I mean, I was hit by a SIM swap attack earlier this year, and it frankly was terrible. Like messages was a total disaster. And I think with people that are kind of desperate to get their money back in any capacity,
Yeah,
some of these
exactly.
SIM swap and some of the even just like the emails I get from like BlockFi and FTX right now about the bankruptcy process are all just such convoluted like legalese type legal jargon.
Yeah.
It's like I don't even know what's real and what's not. So I think
Yeah,
this opens the door for a lot of. Sorry, go ahead.
yes, yeah, some people got scammed through phishing attacks, like because they were hurrying to try and recover their funds. So
Yeah,
yeah, it continues to be bad because of that. Luckily, the data wasn't that sensitive,
yeah.
but it's still.
So anyway, so yeah, more fuel on the fire of the kind of the FTX saga, I guess. But and then lastly, I mean, this is still a developing story here with the Tornado Cash. We had the two of the developers behind Tornado Cash being charged with helping hackers, North Korean hackers, to launder $1 billion worth of transactions through, and Tornado Cash, obviously a mixing service that on Ethereum that would basically masquerade your identity, mask the transactions. And this looks pretty bad just on the surface. Not only the activities bad, but also the precedent that this stuff is going to set. And I think the important thing in the U.S. is anything that touches like this Office of Foreign Asset Control, that's going to cause a lot of problems, basically. So I've been kind of processing some of the attorneys' views on this. I don't really have a super strong opinion, but it doesn't look very good. But
Yeah,
we
it,
shall
it
see.
adds to the role of big cases in the U.S., right? Of the U.S. against softwares or other not understanding of some of these entities that they don't understand still how it works. So well, it's something that we gotta wait and see how it develops.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, that wraps up our weekly roundup for this week. Thanks, Antonio, for joining, for sharing your insights, and we will catch you all next week.
Thank you.